What's up, former party people? This is Jerry, the one who actually combs his hair on the A is for Alcoholic podcast. Now, if you're finding value in listening to the AIFA podcast every week and you want to support sharing it with others, we invite you to become a sustaining monthly or per show contributor. Go to patreon.com/AIFA. It's super easy and it only takes a quick moment. It's about as easy as buying one of those pre-cooked space chickens from the grocery store, taking it outside, giving it a big old kiss, and kicking it into traffic. Why would you do that? Anyway, you do you, and I'll do me. Again, go to patreon.com/AIFA. And with that, people, let's start the show.
A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time.
Welcome to the J&J podcast. Today we're going to give you the hot takes on all the latest sports news.
What is the latest sports news?
Sports are boring.
Sports are boring. I don't even know what season it is. It's baseball?
It's rabbit season.
It's duck season.
Yeah. I don't know. Not to alienate our sports fans out
No.
there.
I just...
You guys just...
Well, we don't follow sports.
Yeah. We're nerds. We're indoor boys. We're
Yes.
sensitive. We got soft ass hands.
I like more solitary sports. I like running, masturbating. Yes, yes, more solitary sports, please.
Getting a little blue in here for the podcast.
Yes.
No, you're a runner. You like to push yourself. You like to push your endurance. You like to
endurance
see what
is
your
a good
measure
way.
is.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think that's too one of the things that I find fascinating in like literature and film and stuff is I always love people who are pushed to the brink or put in the corner.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like how are they going to get out of this one? Like how was Ethan Hawke going to get out of that apartment in Training Day? I couldn't see it. You know what I mean? Like he's in the shower.
Yeah.
And I was just like, he can't get out of this. There's no way. I can't. And I'd been watching the movie the whole time, and I was like, there's absolutely no way. And then boom, like, oh damn, they found the wallet, and it's like,
dude, that whole fucking scene was like every birthday party I grew up with, dude. Those are like all my cousins for real, like Southern Arizona, like talking about jail and shit, and they're like, how was jail for you? And I'm like, I didn't go to jail, dude. My goal is to not go to jail.
So I wanted to start today and for those of you who are maybe just tuning in and wondering what the hell is going on here, this is a little introduction. Jerry and I, we do a podcast about our alcoholism, our recovery from alcoholism. And Jerry and I have been friends since 1990. I mean, I'd probably say we'd been friends since 98. We've known each other since 1996. Something like that. I mean, we were kind of friends in like 96, 97, but not really. Not like
acquaintances. Yeah. We were like friendly acquaintances.
We were friendly. We worked together at the coffee corner there.
Right.
We both had to, I think both of our paychecks bounced at one point because that place couldn't keep it. There were some issues with that place, but
Ooh, dude, yeah.
And so, Jerry got sober, and then I got sober a year later, and so it's been 4 years for me and 5 for him, and we just get up here and we like to talk about the things that we find helpful, sometimes unhelpful, and I know that we say it at the end of every single podcast too, but if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's anything you want to hear our thoughts on, you can always write us at asforalcoholic@gmail.com, or hit us up. I have a Facebook page that I check fairly regularly, and we're on Instagram as well.
Yeah, and we're interactive.
Yes,
we will interact with you.
Yes.
You can hit me up on Instagram at Jerry Wagner Jr. And yeah, it's a tattoo page, but you can hit me up and be
it's
like,
a sober tattoo page.
Yeah, it is a sober tattoo. Let's niche it up even more. You know what I'm saying? Like, just break it into a subgenre. Yeah. But yeah, you can ask me questions. I'll answer pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Mostly anything. Yeah.
So that's who we are, and that's what we do. Under the umbrella of the group of podcasts that we do, I have one that I do with my girlfriend called Rashida and John, and we talk about fitness and health and relationships and all that lovely, fluffy stuff that is sometimes not always fluffy between couples. And then I have another podcast that I do with our mutual friend Walter, who we recorded one, and we were talking about food and crickets and like eating crickets and cultured meat, like meat that's grown in a lab. And I think there's an episode coming out fairly soon where Walter basically breaks down how things like DoorDash and food delivery and smaller living spaces are actually going to be they're training the new generation of people for space travel. And then it's how DoorDash is how we're going to get people to Jupiter.
Now I gotta listen. I'm like, fuck. Now I gotta listen.
And so, for those of you who don't get this,
my body is ready, dude.
Jerry doesn't really listen to that podcast. Walter doesn't listen to this one, but Jerry doesn't listen to that because Jerry's heard all this shit before, or most of it anyway.
Well, and then I'm just making dinner, like arguing with him
in your head, like out loud. He's not even in
out
the
loud, yeah. And Megan's like, "Stop yelling at Walter," because I've gotten into like screaming matches with him.
Drunk, of course.
Drunk, yeah, not sober. Yeah, but drunk, I've definitely been like, I'm gonna throw you out of this fucking window. So now I gotta listen to this because it's kind of plausible, actually.
Well, but, it was just an amazing the thread of his thought to like I was asking him about DoorDash and about how they had done this. U.S. Foods had done this survey, and they said something like 28% of these food delivery drivers, and no offense to anybody out there, this is just a survey that came out, that they were eating food that was being delivered. Like they were snacking some fries or whatever. Would. Yeah, you would.
I would, yeah.
So it was. Wait,
it said 90%? Is that what you
said?
No,
28.
Oh, okay. I was like, all of them? God damn.
No. But I just also thought it was crazy that it's so convenient. He's like, he said to me, yeah, when I was having my Jack in the Box delivered the other day, and I was like, Jesus.
Oh my God. Really classing it up there, dude.
And again, not that there's anything wrong with Jack in the Box.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, but
I'm down though. Super tacos, man.
I saw Instagram said Jack in the Box was giving away free tacos. They kept coming up with this little ad would pop up and it'd be like, get 2 free tacos, and I'm like, why am I getting free tacos on Instagram? Like, what is this world?
That's shit. It's they're training you. They're training your kids to go to Jupiter, or your dog, or whatever.
Yes. Dogs like tacos, don't they?
Fuck yeah, they do. Dogs are crazy.
And then lastly, I just want to talk to you real quick about our sponsor, Green Camel Press. This is a company I do with another friend of mine, Art. We do labels, we do T-shirts, we do greeting cards. Go to greencamelpress.com, pick up a T-shirt. Yes, I think that's it.
I can't think of it.
Can't think of anything else. It's been a hell of a week, and I got depressed the other day, and
that's how we're opening. It's been a hell of a week. I got real depressed the other day.
I was all stressed out about money, and I was stressed out about work that I didn't have, and looking for a job, and I got a big old fever blister on my. I got a double fever blister on my lower lip. It was awful. It was awful. Yeah. Like I had it both blew up on me right there. Boom, boom, and
that shit hurts too.
Yes. So it's been a shitty. It's not been a great week. I feel much better today, and I'm glad to be here talking with you. Our letter this week is E, and so I thought we would talk about ego. And what the ego is, what it isn't, what I think it is. I'm going to do my best not to just regurgitate everything that I've listened to by Alan Watts.
Right.
But for those of you who are interested, Alan Watts is he was, I mean, I guess in the cosmic sense, he still is, right?
He still is, yes.
A British philosopher who was like, I think he died like 73 or something like that, but fascinating stuff, and very even with like a British accent, I think it just seems very approachable. Like he's very matter of fact about.
Well, there's a lot of common sense in it, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of those old, especially those Zen, kind of, not to interrupt you, but no. I think, yeah, I think with a lot of the old Zen philosophers, especially that hippie era, they get a little too cosmic. You know what I mean? They get a little too woo-woo, and you're like, dude. But this guy was very common sense, straightforward. It was almost like the answer's in front of you, dude. Like, you just got to look. It's right there. You're just not looking at it the right way, you know?
And I think that that's what we, you and I, as alcoholics, we were always looking at things from the wrong way.
Right.
And so, like, the ego, and what I understand is like ego is who I think I am. What is my perception of me? But also, it's what I think your perception of me is.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it gets complicated. It gets layered, and there's all this like this shit going on. And so my ego, and we always I am sad, I am happy, I am healthy. What is I? Because the ego doesn't even define, like, that's John Staley is just a tag that was put upon me, right, and that I just chose to perpetuate. Right? Yeah. I could choose to go by another name. I could choose to be a different person. This is just the role that I've played. And one of the things that Alan Watts talks about, like, he doesn't dismiss the ego. He says it's kind of like an inch or a pound, like, or a dollar. Like, these are valuable concepts, but you are not your ego. Jerry Wagner, this persona of Jerry Wagner, it says nothing about your nervous system. It says nothing about the actual blood that's flowing through your body. And so it's fascinating to listen to him talk about these things. Like, he said, the equator, you can't wrap a package with the equator, but the equator is a very important tool for navigating, Right. Or there was another one that he said, but so this ego is this thing that I feel like I was taught as a kid, you are John Staley. This is what you go to school, you learn these things. I, as your parents, I teach you this, and this is how you behave in society. And you grow up. And so my alcoholic ego, so I imagine that there's this disease that I have, this allergy that I have from alcohol, or for alcohol. Is it an allergy from? I don't know.
It's a great question. That'll be next week's podcast.
So I drink, and then I go crazy. But it's just, my ego is, so if it's made up, then how do I get rid of it? Or how do I go around it? How do I release it? How do I give up my ego? And there's Michael Pollan, is that his name? He just wrote a book about mushrooms, and he talks about, he's a food guy, but he talks about going under these very guided trips, and he's like, I felt my ego die when I went in there. Well, right. I'm not going to do mushrooms. So nah. I don't think that that's going to be my way out. But I try to be, humble, right? I go, okay, so John, just be aware of everything. We've talked about awareness too, and kind of living there above my head, and I kind of just watch myself. And if I get offended, or if I get hurt, or if I feel slighted somehow, I go like, well, so what part of me feels slighted? I didn't cut my finger open. I didn't I didn't get punched in the stomach. It's like, oh, right. my feelings got hurt. Well, why did my feelings get hurt? And then I start to dig around in there, and you're like, oh, well, if I just kind of release this ego, then I feel a lot better about everything. When I was feeling sad and depressed, and the other day, and I got up in the morning, and my ankle was hurting, and I couldn't really run, and so I took a walk, and it just didn't feel good, and finally I was like, fuck it, I'm just going back to bed. And it was like the afternoon, and I didn't have a job, so that even felt even worse. I just feeling sorry for myself. And now, today, I feel good. So what's up with that? Like, what is this thing inside of me that's rolling around? The spirit, I don't know that I'm coming up with any good answers necessarily.
Well, I wonder if the ego is that internal monologue, you know, or at least a product of that, or at least maybe the source of that internal monologue, you know. I was looking up ego itself. The definition is, what is it? A person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. But then within psychoanalysis, it's the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. And then philosophy is just a conscious thinking subject, right?
Uh-huh.
But so then if your ego in the most literal sense of the term is your sense of self-esteem or self-importance, I feel like it can go both ways, right? Like when we get in the rooms and ego comes up sometimes as a subject, I think people tend to look at it in the sense of their inflated self-worth, their inflated self-esteem. And sometimes I feel like we miss the idea of our ego. Like it was telling you, like, you're not doing this right because you're not fulfilling this thing that you feel like you need to be fulfilling. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's almost like sometimes most of the time I feel like my ego is actually that voice, that internal monologue. Like, who reads the book when I'm reading? Do you know what I mean? But there's the voice in my head that's narrating. I always feel like that unconscious voice that tells me what is right, what is wrong, my moral compass and shit. I feel like that has a lot to do with my ego as well. And so I feel like when the ego tells you or me that I'm not worth certain things, or that I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, it gets me down and talks a bunch of shit to me. That is also a inflated sense of self-worth. Do you know, in a weird kind of roundabout way, you know?
Well, what do you mean?
I had it and then I lost it.
Sorry.
But I feel like, no, that's okay. It's almost like these awful, with the exception of like maybe mental illness, you know, something you can't help, that's a physical or physiological or chemical thing in your brain. But if, you know, you're typically mentally stable, which is hard to find something like that, especially among alcoholics, you know, but it's like that thing in your brain that tells you you're worthless and all this other shit. And it's almost like this inflated sense of self too, in a weird way to me, because it's telling you, you are so much better than this and look what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And in a way it can be positive, like, you are better than this and look at the things you're doing, reassess them. But it's also like, oh no, you're definitely much bigger than your station in life and you deserve way more than you're putting into it, you know? And it's almost like it's kind of rubbing your nuts a little, telling you like, you're a badass, you're better than everybody else around you, and look at the state you're in.
And look at this,
you know, like,
sloppy, slovenly,
right,
poor, yeah.
Right. Whereas, like, I think a more common sense variant to that would just look around and be like, damn, I should clean my room because it's gross in here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm uncomfortable, but not, I should clean my room because I am above all of this, you know? Which, in some senses, it may be like a weird way of that I think about it like that. I mean, it may be completely wrong, but that's my perception of it, I guess. It's not correct. It's just my perception of it, you know?
So what I'm hearing, and I think that this is, ego is there to protect you.
Oh, absolutely.
So your ego, Jerry's ego is saying, man, why are you fucking up? You're so much better than this. You know, you shouldn't be doing this shit. You should be doing this shit. Or,
right.
And kind of like a older brother or like an older friend who's like, you know, because I feel
shitty,
like
though.
I can, well, here's the thing, and this is growing up with you guys, and this is something that either you or maybe Coda or somebody told me, was like, we all kind of check each other and we talk shit to each other and we give each other a hard time because there's this idea that we're in a pack, right? We're in a tribe, we're in a group. And so we're here to protect each other, but also I need you as part of this group to be tough. In case somebody from outside the group comes at you, you need to be able to handle these things. And so I just remember having some conversation with one of you guys about like, well, that's why we fuck with you, instead of like positive reinforcement and uplifting support, which we all which, you know, I think we all could have, would have, should have benefited from in our 20s. It was
Absolutely.
like, it's like, let's just poke each other with sticks. So in case somebody comes at us with the fucking, you know, Roman phalanx of long spears, we'll be ready for them, right?
Which never fucking happened.
Never
right?
happened.
Yeah. And the great thing is, I know it was me or Coda because it had to have been one of the graffiti guys from Arizona, because my whole social group in Arizona was built on us giving each other really hard time, to the point where your feelings would get hurt. You know, you would just try to hurt each other constantly. And I don't know, you know, like that, it sounds like a definite thing a guy in his 20s would say, like, we're just trying to toughen you. We're a pack of wolves, man. I'm just trying to toughen you up in case these other motherfuckers. Ain't no motherfuckers gonna run in the house and while we're watching The Simpsons and drinking shitty tequila, like,
No.
you know. But when we were young, it was, yeah. But there is a definite way of like your ego checking yourself too. I really feel like that lower self-esteem is, I live with it constantly. And I guess another example would be like this: what happened today when, you know, I bought someone a gift and they didn't appreciate it the way I wanted them to. My feelings got hurt. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, you're deserving of way more adoration than you got,
right?
You know. And I'm just like, why don't you just be happy you're providing for someone you care about, instead of making it into this thing like, oh, well, they didn't give you the reaction you felt like you deserved, you know? So but then again, that's natural. We can't, I mean, those things, this is why we have to work at those things, right? Because this is like what humans normally do. Like if you present a gift to Rashida and you worked really hard on it and she's not necessarily dismissive, but not as excited as you want her to be, you're going to be like, well, that is not what I wanted from you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas she's just like, well, I'm just being genuine in the way I feel about this thing, you know, or whatever it is.
You know, and we've talked about, her and I have talked about this in the past about no, because
Yeah.
I will have something, and maybe it's even just like not even a gift, okay? Maybe it was like something that I wanted to share with her, or something I thought she would like, whether it was, I mean, it may have been a gift, or like a TV show or something that made me laugh that I thought would make her laugh, and she was just, she was disgusted by it or offended, and she doesn't get offended easily, and you know, I have a pretty good idea of what, you know, about what disgusts her and what doesn't, but you know, we've gotten to the point where either one, I know better about what she likes and dislikes, but also when I present her with something, I've gotten better at like letting go of those expectations, so that not only if she can enjoy the gift the way that she wants, or not at all, and B, I don't have to have my entire self-worth attached to something. I mean, but of course we're human beings, and so that's what we do, and it's a human thing to want someone to be excited because you want to feel that joy and you work so hard to create this thing or make this thing, or you felt so good about this thing that you wanted to share with somebody else. And then when they go like, yeah, thank you. You're like, fuck.
Well, and that's a great example. It's a great example of alcoholism, right? Because they even say in the literature, in the book, you know, it's a self-will run riot, you know, and who fucking fuels your will but your ego? You know what I mean? Like, when you're doing things for yourself to not necessarily better yourself, but for your own, you know what I mean, your own self-will, it almost feels like the ego fuels that shit. The ego's like, yeah, baby, yeah, you're doing this because you're number one fucking keg stand fucking Jerry.
Number one keg stand Jerry.
You know what I'm saying? Or whatever it is. Oh, you're gonna drink what, one little bitch Fireball? I'm gonna drink this whole bottle. Fun, take my pants off and fist fight, you know, or whatever. And so
what if, like, so self-will run riot, and we talk a lot about.
Ow.
You all right?
But leave that in. I
sit on your ego.
I bumped my ego into the fucking dresser.
Self-will run riot, right? And so we talk a lot about, I mean, in the program, finding a higher power, and one way that I've heard it described for people who oftentimes don't want to think about God or will not think about God is finding a higher version of yourself to live up to, right? So if there's self-will, which is like one level, but then there's like the next level, the higher level of myself, is me trying to like release the ego. So the ego is just like gimme, 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 gimme. And then there's this higher version of myself that's like, clean your fucking room,
Right.
pay the bills on time every day, or every month, and then you'll feel better about things. And then, so it's trying to. I feel like for me, it's more about what is going to bring me more fulfillment than just immediate gratification. What is going
Correct.
to, if I pay the bills on time, if I organize my calendar, whatever that might be, if I take care of the important things, doesn't that then free me up, free my mind up to relax? I can relax my mind if I know that everything is taken care of, handled, and organized.
Right.
And that
Once your house is in order.
once
so
my
to
house
speak.
is in
Yeah.
order, then I can start. I'm free to think about these bigger ideas of myself, this higher version of myself, this more, I can meditate better when I know that the phone bill's been paid. In the
Right.
simplest
Right.
terms. So that's kind of a cool way for me to look at like the higher version of myself. My ego's
Right.
just running around like a hungry rat in the fucking, in the sewer and just digging whatever it can, take everything. And if something, if I don't know, if a cheese truck gets turned over, the rat just goes crazy and eats as much cheese as possible. But
Yeah.
I'm not
Until it
interested
dies,
until it dies,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not
Right.
interested in
Yeah.
living in the sewer and waiting for some thing to happen. I really want to be like in the fast lane on my way to know where I'm going. I got the GPS set up. I know where the cheese is going to be, right? I'm going to a fucking
Right.
cheese tasting,
Right.
that's already been laid out for me. That's
Yeah.
that's my higher self. I
Right.
don't know if that's a good analogy,
I'm gonna eat cheese till I die.
right?
That's it. That's my higher power is eating cheese till I fucking die bloated. No, I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Cheese man.
I don't even.
Cheese
I've,
man.
I've been off cheese for the last few months, so I don't even know what I'm talking
really?
about. Well, it's a calorie thing, so it's easier for me to.
Oh yeah, no, I get it.
But also, I like
fuck with
cheese.
a little bit of cheese.
But
I
you
don't
know.
fuck with that much unless I eat pizza, and then I'll do like one and a half slices. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even know. But I feel like with man, I was thinking when you were talking about this rat thing, I was thinking about it too, and I kind of lost it. But this interesting with this discussion of a higher power because I always felt like the higher power too is one's way of letting go of one's ego, right? Because your idea in your mind that you need to control and manipulate every single thing in your life, which is that alcoholic way of thinking, is very ego driven. Thinking I am enough to handle all of this shit, whereas I feel like surrendering one's ego is like surrendering oneself to their own, quote unquote, or their own version of a quote unquote higher power. It's like, well, I can't handle all of this, so sometimes maybe I just got to let it handle itself.
Yeah.
And I always felt like my ego is driven behind that, and it's not even it was never for me personally. It was never like a front page type of manipulation or a front page type of controlling where I was out on Front Street being like, I control all this shit. It was more like you know how I'm gonna control this? I'm gonna check the fuck out and get fucking lit, and then I got it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Then I got it. I just got to get my right thinking on, And with people in my life, all I got to do is lie to them enough so I can keep doing what I need to be doing. Or I got to misdirect or gaslight and be like, oh, well, I didn't mean it that way when I said you were a fucking bitch or whatever, And like, I totally fucking meant it that way. But I need you off my shit right now so I can continue getting fucked up, And that's all ego shit, man. That's all like trying to control everything around you. You know? Yeah.
And the ego, like, we talked about, has its positive.
Absolutely, yeah.
It can help protect
dude,
you.
yeah.
For me, having this ego helps me to navigate things like job interviews and how people are going to perceive me. How to handle people out in the real world. How to contend with, knowing how certain people and certain types of people and just how things work, how systems that are in place, whether or not I agree with those systems, how to navigate them. I don't want to say manipulate them because I don't really feel like that's my aim with people.
No,
but,
I know what you mean, though.
But when somebody asks me a question and I need to get something from them to get through my day, I need to know the best way to get what I need if they're somehow involved or in the way or require something from me. So, I mean, there's all those things, but when I get caught up with it, like I said, that the ego with drinking, and you said, "Oh, just fuck it. All I got to do is get my right head on." There were always problems, and there were always problems of money. There were always problems of relationships. There were always problems of friendship. Friends. Like, we did not treat each other. I mean, we did not treat each other the best. I don't want to say we were horrible, but we let a lot of things slide that I don't think that I would let slide these days.
There was no mutual admiration society.
No, there was not.
No. We called the Algonquin Round Table.
Yes.
It was just a bunch of fucking drunks sitting around a table just being mean to each other, really.
Right?
Yeah.
It was more like the IKEA fucking coffee table at Jerry's house.
Yeah, the IKEA coffee table. Yeah, my house is already broken.
But yeah, so it was just that running rampant, and so the ego gets a little bit more, that monster gets a little bit of fuel, and you're like, oh, I just need a little more, a little more.
Mm-hmm. I look at it like fire, right? Like, while you're talking about, using it for good, it's like fire. Like, you need just enough to cook and stay warm and make shit, but then you have too much and it like burns everything down and kills you, So it's like a real similar thing. It's a very useful tool when applied correctly, or used for its main purpose, because you can't be without it, right? It's like you were talking earlier about these guys who are doing mushrooms and killing their ego, which is great, but it fucking comes back. Like, you kill it, but you don't walk around floating around like Mr. Burns' fucking ghost in The Simpsons. You know what I'm saying? Like I love you.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't. That's disingenuous. There is still something there that is fueling you to do what those fucking things you do. The mushrooms thing, to go off on a tangent, is always really funny to me, right? Like the psychedelics and the mushrooms and MDMA and DMT, and how they keep talking about how it's supposed to like solve all your problems and shit like that. And I imagine for some people it does, but my own perception of it is like, I don't fuck with that, right? And I always get a little flack from these guys I know who are just like huge psychedelic dudes, I guess, or just really into getting high or whatever. And they're always like, well, how you never know, And I'm like, man, for me it's like a video game, right? Like, if I need to take mushrooms to figure myself out, it's almost like fast traveling in a video game. Like, I miss all this shit because I'm trying to get from point A to point B quickly without having to do any of the fucking work. Do you know what I'm saying? This is just my opinion on it. Like, there could be someone out there right now figuring out the whole fabric of the universe high on mushrooms, and they'll forget that shit tomorrow. But, like, so for me, it was always one of those things where it's been on my mind, right? Because they're decriminalizing mushrooms in Oregon, apparently. Everybody's hailing it as this great thing, and I'm like, hey, it's just another substance to take to make you feel different than you already feel. Once you attach the metaphysical to it, it's almost like, were there metaphysical properties to me fucking drinking all that Bacanora? You know what I'm saying? Like, there were no metaphysical properties to me drinking all that Evan Williams. I did not open another door of perception, personally. So for me, taking mushrooms is just another way of getting fucking loaded. It's just another way of getting intoxicated,
Yeah.
That being said, other people have had great thoughts while intoxicated on those drugs, and I don't want to take that away from them.
No.
Just for me, it's like, maybe I want to figure out who I am and rip open my own space-time fabric like the hard way. You know what
You're
I'm
not going to fast travel.
Yeah, I don't want to fast travel.
You're going to do all the side quests.
I want to ride through New Austin and see all the fucking tumbleweeds and see that those designers took a lot of time to render those cactuses, and they look beautiful.
We talking about Fallout 76?
No, Red Dead.
Oh, okay. I still haven't played that one yet.
Yeah. No, 76 takes place in West Virginia, which is super weird, right?
Isn't that where Walking Dead takes place? Or starts?
No, that's Georgia. I think it might start in West Virginia. But I'm just like, who the fuck wants to go to West Virginia? Not the West Virginia listeners live in hell. It's not like that at all. That's more like Alabama. Bam. See, I got this fucking hot fire today, dude. Hot takes.
I think I love
Hot
the idea
talkies.
of mushrooms as fast travel. I don't have a problem with mushrooms necessarily for other people.
Right. Same here. I have none either.
I've taken them. I've eaten them. I've enjoyed them. I've been scared by them. I've been terrified by them. I've
Yeah.
felt in love with everyone and everything around me with them. But yeah, I don't see it as a viable way for me to dissolve that ego. And, again, talking about Alan Watts, and he says the ego's, it's like an inch or a pound. Like, it's an imaginary thing that can be useful. He says it's not like I can't strangle you with my telephone number, but a telephone number is pretty important, right? It's not a real thing.
Right. It's a concept.
It's a concept. It's something we made up. It's something I have perpetuated. It's something that was given to me probably at birth, by my parents and by the world at large, because everyone's, everyone's done it. Like, so
dude, we're tripping through the fucking pain right now, dude. This is it, dude. You follow that rabbit, Johnny.
So as a baby,
we're not fast traveling right now. No. We're not fast traveling. We're doing the hard work. Who am I really? I mean, I'm a series of cells and muscles and, all this stuff. And is John Staley some guy who talks about alcoholism on a podcast? I mean, that's something that I do, for an hour a week with you. And I mean, I think about it a lot more, but, is he somebody who's struggling to find a job bartending and has to contend with that? Is he somebody who's like, who is he? Is he what he says on his Instagram? Is he an artist, author, actor, whatever nonsense that that you have to put in your bio? Is Jerry Wagner Jr., is he a tattoo artist? Is that what you are? Is that what you say you? Is that how you imagine yourself to be, and that you need people to think of you that way so that you can put money in the bank and pay the rent? Right. Right. I don't know if you're asking me really you want me to answer.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Hypothetically.
No, yeah. I mean, how do you? No. Who is Jerry Wagner?
Right. Am I not the sum of my parts? Right. If we're following my Instagram thing, I think I'm a biscuit risker, but I'm not sure.
What is a biscuit risker?
You got to risk it to get the biscuit, dude. I don't like biscuits.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a weird question to ask. It's funny. I think sometimes people are like especially this one, they're going to be like, man, I want to really listen to these alcoholics talk about ego and alcoholism and how it affects. And then we just fucking took a hard left. I love it. And I'm not dogging you on that. I think it's great, right? Because we get a little philosophical at times, man.
I get that way a lot of times.
I don't know who Jerry Wagner is. That's the thing. That's what this whole experiment in sobriety that's lasted 5 years so far is trying to figure out who Jerry is, why he does the things he does, and see, I'm even in the third person because I feel distance from this person. Do you know what I mean? Because there is an internal monologue. There's the ego that's telling me what is right and not right, I guess. But I can't believe that all the time. That's disingenuous because it's looking out for my own best interests when really, honestly, at the end of the day, I kind of want to make people around me feel better. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if I'm looking out for my own best interests, everybody else around me can go fucking suck an egg, a horse egg. I'm going back. But I don't know, man. This is all new. Like all of this. This is all this podcast, all of this. I keep repeating that, but it's hard to elaborate it within words. It's all just very new. This idea of me saying things and people listening to them and going, oh, wow, that really meant something. Because usually I would say shit back in the day and they'd be like, shut the fuck up, or you're too loud, or sir, you're going to have to leave, or whatever,
sure.
Yeah,
all
man. So and I know that we're in no position that we're like killing it in the recovery podcast community. We're just two dudes talking, who have been getting positive feedback. So we want to continue doing what we're doing because it feels good to do it. And it makes me happy that someone will be like that. What Devin or whoever, this young lady making dinner was writing, saying, or this person making dinner, and they're listening to what we're saying, and it's just that even to me is dangerous to my ego because eventually I'm just like, have you met me? I'm a podcaster.
Do you know?
Do you know?
Do you know who
I have touched dozens of people.
Yeah, I I was thinking about this as we're going into talking about my ego and your ego, and we're sitting here and we talk, and it's like, who are you to me, and who do I? And I was thinking like who I used to think you were when we were hanging out in our 20s, and you were the fucking like cool tattoo guy, and you were always like there'd always, he was fun and he was cool and he always fucking had a fresh like new pair of shoes and some fucking
thanks, man.
He was rocking, you know what I mean? Like whatever it was, like
I know what you mean. Yeah, because it's all surface stuff.
Jerry always had fresh sneakers and a new fedora, I mean, which sounds
I
terrible in
don't be wearing
2019.
no sneakers and a fedora together, man. But in 2003, that was cool as hell. In '99, that shit was
Etnies and a
dope.
fucking fedora.
Etnies and a fedora, and you better watch out, young lady.
But seriously, so in my mind, I was like, okay, well, one, I was like, we like a lot of the same music, so we get along,
Right.
we read the same books, we get along, he's fun, he's funny.
Right.
But it was like, but he's funnier than me, and he's like cooler than me, and he's got tattoos, and he's going to be a tattoo artist, and how cool is that? And I was working whatever work job I was doing at the hospital at the time, and so there was this perception of you, and I don't think that matched what you were feeling on the inside during that time. I don't know how.
No, not at all. No.
You didn't.
Which is funny because, I mean, not to do this mutual admiration society, pet each other's egos, but yeah, and I'd feel the same way about you. I'd see John and be like, dude, he's fucking really funny and he's smart and he can drink his ass off and he's like this fucking Jack Kerouac-esque Hunter S. Thompson writer guy who just didn't give a fuck. Like, I was like, man, I wish I could just like not care what people thought about me.
And I
Like,
cared
John
all
just-
the time.
Yeah, and my perception was like, John gives not one iota of a fuck about what anybody thinks about him. He's gonna take his fucking clothes off and like, you know what I mean? Like whip his wiener around and everybody's gonna laugh and I'm gonna be standing there going, man, why can't I do that? Like, why am I too scared to do that? You know?
And the only
But,
reason
no.
I was doing that was because I cared so much about what people thought of me, and I thought this was
Right.
the only way to get the attention, to get the adulation, to get the adoration, which, as we all know, was very fleeting and maybe was funny for a minute, and then everybody fucking
Right.
left, and I was alone, and I was fucking
your wiener
with my
out.
wiener out, usually passed out.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right. And that's the same thing on my end. It was like I'd come in with the fucking cool fedora and a pair of shoes and like wearing a suit. We were all swing dudes and wearing our suits and shit. And yeah, cool tattoo guy, the pompadour. Then I'd go home and feel sad as fuck because I was all alone and I hated myself and I just wanted to die. And every day was just drinking, so I didn't really want to die. Or maybe I'd drink enough so I could finally do it, you know? But yeah, man, it was like hard depression. Like most of that time, it was just I'd come out in the world and be like, haha, yeah, whatever.
hey, what's
and then-
happening? Yeah, I mean,
Right.
that whole swing thing, like I picked all that shit up from you. Okay,
Right.
I was
I
like,
loved it though. I still love it though.
you got us all into it. You got
know.
every single one of your friends. I mean, I'm not trying to stroke your I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. It was
Nah, I'm gonna walk out of this room tonight and be like, I'm a fucking god, Megan.
it was 20 years ago, but like
20 years ago, I was a god.
But you had, I mean, I got pictures in my fucking closet of all of us with chain wallets and suits and all this shit, and like
Going to fucking Big Bad Voodoo Daddy shows and Royal Crown Review and shit. Yeah.
and it's like, and it was fun, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
I did it, and I felt it was a cool identity for a minute, for as long as it lasted, which I think was about a year. I don't know.
Yeah, about a year, yeah.
When it was really hot, like, I mean, it's still like,
What was that, like 98?
98,
97,
99?
98, 99, dude, yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think 2000 was, I don't know, and then I was wearing like bowling shirts and fucking rockabilly, whatever bullshit I was doing. I don't know, but I was always trying to put on some kind of persona, affectation, right?
Persona, right? Because we didn't know who we were on the inside.
And nobody, I mean, who knows who they are in
Nobody
their
really
20s.
does, though. Yeah.
I mean,
except for maybe Alan Watts, but he's dead now, so he probably really knows who he is.
Exactly.
Now, but-
Exactly. He knows. He knows better. He's so. I look back on those times, and alcohol was really. It was this thing that really made me feel good, and it was this thing, and I mean, it was a temporary good, right?
Right. Yeah, of course.
But it worked. At a certain point, it did. It was working, or at least
right.
that was my perception of it at the time. Was
Right.
that alcohol was helping me
and-
feel better?
And we circle back to that a lot, and I think it's important that we circle back to that a lot and make that point that it worked in the beginning, because it's the genesis of our addiction. If it didn't work, we wouldn't be doing that. That's why I'm not addicted to gambling. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm addicted to fucking overeating, or addicted to fucking crystal meth or whatever, because none of those things worked. but alcohol was the thing that fit in that slot perfectly in our brains.
Bang. Yeah.
Bang. Exactly. It was like the perfect fuel. And pooh.
And it was then that I could feel that ego could come out, and maybe even a little bit of the what's the other one? The id. Is that the
id?
Is
yeah.
that the what is the id? The id is like the dark. That's all the things I want and need, and that's sort of like my baby child. Gimme, 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 and then the super ego
I think
is.
That's what it is.
But that's what.
It is the part of the mind in which innate instinctive impulses and primary processes are manifest.
So yeah, I mean, the ego would drink until it decided the ego was going to check out, and then the id would kick in.
Instinctive impulses, yeah, and your primary process, which is exactly gimme because it makes me feel good.
Drink, 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 and then
right, don't stop gimme.
Or like probably stumbling home or trying to get the key in the door or fucking finding my way home was all that id. Like I gotta getting Taco Bell at the end of the night and then feeling horrible the next day. What's the super ego part of it?
The part of a person's mind that acts as a self-critical conscience reflecting social standards learned from parents and teachers.
So yeah, and I feel like that's
almost sounds like what Alan Watts is kind of talking about in a sense too.
Yeah, well I feel like there's that
aspect of it.
That idea of that perceived image from other people onto you.
Right.
That you feed into, that you go, oh, okay, well, yes, this is who I will be. This is what I will do. This is how I will.
Right.
So
it all fuels itself, right? Right. So then the ego is, the super ego is all that societal pushing on you that makes you self-critical of your own self. And then the ego is your sense of self-esteem, and then the id is the part that's like gimme, gimme, gimme. So they all work together. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody's telling you, hey, you're a cool swing guy, and I'm like, I am a cool swing guy. And then my brain's like, there's some dopamine for being a cool swing guy. Now be more swingy or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it just like goes in a circle where, and then you drink the booze, and then all of a sudden you're charming. How many times you hear in these rooms that people feel like they're outsiders and they're all alone and there's no one there for them and they never fit in, and then they drink and all of a sudden they fit in. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then that part of the brain's like, if you keep drinking, you'll keep fitting in, motherfucker. And you're like, well, I'm gonna drink some more then. Do you know? Like, yeah.
So how do I get rid of my ego in sobriety?
Hit yourself with a hammer real hard in the head. Just keep hitting yourself with that hammer.
One of the things that I would suggest is that, and I think you should read this book too. It's the Pete Holmes book. Did I tell you about this? It's called.
Oh yeah, I got to get on Audible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're not sponsoring this, but Audible is the best. I don't know, $15 a month that I think I spend. I got rid of HBO Go until what's its nuts comes back.
Wait, so when
Westworld.
you listen to audiobooks, are you just sitting in a room just staring at the wall?
you want to know?
Let's say you do all your chores, you make dinner,
yeah,
you do all your laundry, you do all the stuff you have to do, and then it's gotten to a really good part of the book. Do you just sit down and just stare at your lap? Because I do. Like when it gets to a good part of the book, I'll just stare at the floor and listen to the good part.
Sometimes I'll listen to them on a run.
Right.
And then sometimes, like I there was one time I was listening to something and I came down. I was the couch outside, the little bench or whatever, and I was done running, and I just sat there for a while, and I was just kind of like sweating and staring into the front yard.
At the neighborhood dogs and shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I do that shit all the time. That's why I was asking, because I'll get really into it, but I need to be doing something, and if I'm not painting, I'm cooking or something, and then I'm done.
When you're done doing everything, like what?
I'm done cooking. I'm like, am I really gonna eat a meal and listen to the rest of this fucking podcast or the rest of this book?
Some of them I used to listen to while I would fall asleep to. Like I'd put on like Stephen King's Dark Tower since I'd already read it a couple of times.
Yeah, so you already knew.
So I didn't. If I wouldn't feel so bad if I fell asleep and missed 20 minutes or something, but this book, Pete Holmes, and talking about dissolving the ego, and I think for me this was really, I always liked his comedy. I always thought he was kind of funny and weird because he kind of had this Christian thing going on, but not really. Yeah. But he also liked to swear and be dirty on stage, and just very interesting dude. And then I saw his show on HBO, and then this book came out, and I heard him on the Rich Roll podcast, and he was talking about
that was a good one,
right?
Yeah.
And I know, I don't know, like Rich Roll's not for everybody, and I don't know what other people listen to, but like this was a really good one. And I read his book, and he talks about awareness, and he's very much like he met Ram Dass, and so all that sort of very ethereal, hippie, Alan Watts vibe kind of stuff. But he talks about figuring out your awareness, and it's just this sort of like that voice is just sort of hovering above your head. And so if you just watch yourself, you're not really in your own mind, you're sort of above yourself, and it really helps me to not be governed by my ego as much, I think, is when I kind of pull away and I relax. And, you know, we talk about surrender, we talk about letting go, we talk about all of these things. And I find that especially when I don't want to, or especially when like I'm feeling sad or angry or whatever, and it's like, okay, this is the trigger that you need to kind of pull away, and you need to kind of relax, and you need to like step outside yourself. And then I can kind of see these things, and I'm like, oh, you're angry. Why are you angry? Well, do you need to be angry? Is it important to be angry? Is it ever? Right. And maybe sometimes it is important to be angry, you know?
Right.
But that's something that's really helped me with it, because I don't know that I'll ever get rid of it. Like I said, I'm also, I mean, I am more of a fast travel guy when it comes to video games, but
right, and so am I actually. Sobriety. I just thought of it as like a good metaphor, but not in sobriety, not in trying to figure out who I am as a person. We may never figure this shit out, and the likelihood is we won't. We'll just keep doing it till we're done being alive. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like part of this whole journey of recovery, and it's I feel so cringy calling it a journey, but it is a journey, and part of this fucking journey is doing it. Is the journey itself, is doing the recovery, is figuring myself out. Because once what if I do figure it all out? Then what the fuck do I do with myself? Do you know what I mean?
Then you just get to exist. You won't even have that question. That question would be answered.
Yeah, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather just work on myself. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to fuck things up and be angry, and it's okay to indulge your ego every once in a while. You're a human being, you know?
Yeah.
This idea, and sometimes in recovery where you meet people who are more zen than you or got their recovery more figured out than you, man, you don't know, man. You don't know what they do. And it's just like when during their alcoholism, like they're the fun party swinger cool guy, and then they go home and fucking cry. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know. I never know. So nowadays I just try to take them at face value, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's
a healthy amount of skepticism.
that's all you can do, right? I mean, it's
well, yeah.
We have these deep rooted. I mean, we talked about this before we recorded tonight about these deep rooted skepticisms of people, these preconceived notions, and how we're like, what do you want, man? I don't trust in, so it's a trust issue, right? So,
right.
How do I?
But that's also ego as well, right? Because then I'm like, who am I to be so important that this person wants to fuck me in particular over? Like, am I the shiniest fucking light bulb in this room for this moth? Like, that doesn't make sense. You know? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, but when you start asking yourself those questions, I mean, and again, it's hard. We're human in the moment. But when you start asking yourself those questions, you go like, oh, okay. So one, I'm probably not that important to that person. So if that's the truth, then any sort of kindness they are extending to me, they're doing it because they want to, because it makes them feel good. So why not join them in that space of feeling good? And I don't, you talk about like the cringy vocabulary of recovery, and it's tough because, the journey, right? And so, but I like to think, and we talked about this, we were kind of cracking jokes, but being an explorer, right? Being on an adventure and being on this journey, right? Like I want to go run and see where I can go and how far I can go and do these different things.
Right.
I feel like things like being an explorer, being an adventurer, being on a journey, like these are real, like far, like ancestral, deep human desires. So when we talk about these things, we really want it to be something big and important, and it is. I mean, it's my life. So I wish there was a better word too. I mean, journey, trip.
No, I think it's a great enough word. That's just my ego telling me I'm too cool for the word journey.
There you go.
Like,
exactly.
It really is. I'm just like, whoa, too cool to say journey. Like, come on, man.
Don't stop
believing. I wore a fedora
believing.
in etnies in the 90s, like you said. So I wore a fedora just 2 days ago. So
Well, and I don't think there's anything wrong with you.
No.
I mean, you had a lot of fedoras.
Yeah, I still do. You want to see some close-up magic?
I saw this like ring on Instagram that was like a magnet, so it looked like you could do that like close-up magic. I don't know, but and if you
it's all gone, but the quarter's back here or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. But so I think it's exciting to me to like think like, okay, so so if it is a journey, like if you are the star of this fucking awesome movie, like what's the next move? What does the character do? And then that's too like step away. There's that awareness, let go of the ego, and just like what's this character's next move? It's not to fucking wallow in self-loathing. I mean that part is important in the movie. That's part of the build-up. But man,
you need your downbeat, for your build up,
But I'm ready for like the redemption part of my movie. I'm ready for the for the like turnaround, for the come up.
Right. You're not Hulk Hogan when they're hitting Hulk Hogan with the chairs. You're the Hulkster when they start chanting his name and he starts shaking because all his Hulkamaniacs are saying his name. That's you right there, building up. And then you just beat the fuck out of like 5 guys and put one of them in the hospital, like, I didn't mean to do it, brother.
Hulk Hogan.
So Hulkamaniacs. I don't even like wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I just grew up with it.
But I do like the analogy of Hulk Hogan as my epic adventurer.
I think that's your epic adventurer vibe, is that with that weird baby doll hair, like just killing it, dude. Yeah.
And him ripping his shirt off is me like crushing my ego, like just letting go.
Crushing your ego. And just so you can get out in the woods and film some more cats.
Yes. Hulk Hogan is my higher power.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Maybe that's the switch over now. Maybe you've leveled up. Because even you saying it's kind of fun, I'm being on this exploration of yourself and being out in the world and stuff. It rings true with me too. It's just like my recovery. It's almost like I got a perk. It's like, once again, video game shit, but like, it's like I got a perk and I earned the don't have to be a fucking drunk piece of shit all the time. You know what I mean? And now I can just do stuff like part of my heads up display is now more available to me, or I learn a new thing, So, these mistakes I make are always a path for me to figure out a better way to do it, or a more efficient way, or a more helpful way,
Well, and once you quit drinking, all those perks level up, like your luck, your charisma, your endurance, like everything, your health.
Some of us with charisma, some of us ain't too charismatic.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding. You're all lovely people. But it all does. It all perks up. You start feeling better. You get freedom.
Can I ask you about your level of ego in like the art that you do, like how it used to be versus how it is now?
Yeah, it's way different now. I mean, if we're talking about the actual definition of ego, I had such a higher sense of esteem that was mixed with so much self-hatred. It was really weird, man. How dare you talk shit about my shit? I'm a total fucking, what do they call it? Autodidact? I was self-taught, I don't know if I pronounced that right. Autodidact. Self-taught. So how dare you go to your fucking art school and tell me, I know because I learned on the streets, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, I thought my sense of self was so inflated, and now it's way different. I don't hate my art. I do kind of hate my art, but I've always kind of hated my art.
Why?
But just because I'm a huge critic. I can see how I can improve it. So maybe hate's the wrong word. I'm incredibly critical of my art because I expect more of myself, which is also my ego involved. So maybe I haven't improved at all ego-wise in my art. But I always look at it and go, man, there's a better approach to that. Or you could have done it this way. Or I'll look at another artist's work and appreciate it and love it and want to own it and feel like it's it's really relatable and an expression of how I feel, But I'm also really jealous of it and go, God, why couldn't I do that? Why couldn't I do that? So I think it's more, it's just as comparative, I think, and sometimes just as critical, but it's not as self-destructive. Like, I don't want to tear myself down for it. I just want to do better when I see it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see it and go, damn, that person really expressed what was going on in such a fucking great way that I need to figure out the right way to express what's going on with me, instead of going, damn, that person's better than me, I'm a piece of garbage, I need to go fucking, whatever, go fuck myself.
Well, I mean,
good night. Or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a clear way of explaining it, because the way Me and art are weird, man. Me and art, I have a very weird relationship with art because it's just something I do now. It's always been something I do, but it's something I just kind of, it's a reflex now more than anything, you know?
Are you cutting up canvases after you're done with them still, or no?
No, not at all. I'm not kicking holes in canvases. I'm not punching. I'm not cutting them up. I'm not smashing all the frames and fucking lighting them on fire and shit. Like, I feel like that's so self-indulgent now.
Right.
That's so self-indulgent. I just paint over it or throw it away.
When we were younger, Jerry would he would spend hours on these paintings, and then find some flaw in it and slice it up with a knife or fucking kick.
I'm a fucking artist, man.
Right?
You know, like, it's so passionate. Like, I'm so passionate. And when I was just like wasting supplies.
You don't have to waste supplies anymore. You know,
I just gesso over it and put it in a corner and forget about it. If I'm frustrated, there's no need to be angry at it because I'm just angry at myself. Oh man, sit down, eat some pie. It'll be all right.
I could go for a slice of pie.
No cheese on that pie though, man.
No cheese. Humble pie? What is that? That's like, I don't know.
Humble pie?
Humble pie? Isn't that like?
Isn't that a band?
That is a band. I don't know what the phrase means. I think it's like eating crow, humble pie.
Yeah. Like you made fun of someone's
hole.
ass in front of them. Is that a Humble Pie song? 30 Days?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know what the answer is.
There is none.
There is no answer.
That's the best part of it, is there is none. Although, listener, if you have an answer, hit us up.
What is the sound of one hand clapping?
I love that. Is that Bart Simpson?
Yes,
he just
it
claps
is.
with one hand? Yeah.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.